Welcome. 10 books to read in 2020. Number 1. Inland, a novel by Obreht. What Obreht pulls off here is pure poetry. It doesn't feel written so much as extracted from the mind in its purest, clearest, truest form. Entertainment Weekly, Grade A. Inland is a classic story, told in a classic way, and yet it feels wholly and unmistakably new. At once a new Western myth and a far realer story than many we have previously received, and that's even with all the ghosts. NPR. With Inland, Obreht makes a renewed case for the sustained, international appeal of the American West, based on a set of myths that have been continually shaped and refracted through outside lenses. Discovering the particular genre conventions that Obreht has chosen to transfigure or to uphold soon becomes central to the novel's propulsive appeal. The New Yorker. It's a voyage of hilarious and harrowing adventures, told in the irresistible voice of a restless, superstitious man determined to live right but tormented by his past. At times, it feels as though Obreht has managed to track down Huck Finn years after he lit out for the territory and found him riding a camel. The unsettling haze between fact and fantasy in Inland is not just a literary effect of Obreht's gorgeous prose, it's an uncanny representation of the indeterminate nature of life in this place of brutal geography. Ron Charles, The Washington Post. Propulsive. Obreht has swapped the tumultuous history of the former Yugoslavia for that of the American frontier. What she retains, in addition to infectious storytelling and a split, double narrative, is the strong sense of superstition which pervades the earlier fiction. A form of magic realism is at work here, which does not detract from the harshly explicit truths transmitted about the nature, and the price, of survival. Financial Times. Exquisite. The historical detail is immaculate. The landscape exquisitely drawn. The prose is hard, muscular, more convincingly Cormac McCarthy than McCarthy himself. The Guardian. In a moment where the book world fetishizes self-examination and minute-sentence-level showiness, it is not only a relief but a privilege to see Obreht shoot the moon with this sprawlingly ambitious and fully imagined tale. San Francisco Chronicle. Rivers of blood and ink have been spilled mythologizing the American Southwest, but rarely if ever with the sort of giddy beauty Obreht brings to the page in Inland. She displays dazzling dexterity and wit with the English language, transporting the reader to a fantastical late 19th century that borders on outright fantasy, where descriptions wax decadent and ghosts are treated as a matter of fact. USA Today. Obreht's MO is clear. She's determined to unsettle our most familiar, cliché-soaked genres. Inland can feel like Cormac McCarthy's Blood Meridian turned inside out, contemplative rather than rollicking, ghostly rather than blood-soaked. Minneapolis Star-Tribune. Number 2. Daisy Jones and the Six, a novel by Taylor Jenkins Reid. New York Times bestseller, a gripping novel about the whirlwind rise of an iconic 1970s rock group and their beautiful lead singer, revealing the mystery behind their infamous breakup. I devoured Daisy Jones and the Six in a day, falling head over heels for it. Daisy and the band captured my heart. Reese Witherspoon, Reese's Book Club x Hello Sunshine Book Pick. Named one of the best books of the year by The Washington Post, Esquire, Glamour, Good Housekeeping, The Dallas Morning News. Everyone knows Daisy Jones and the Six, but nobody knows the reason behind their split at the absolute height of their popularity. Until now. Daisy is a girl coming of age in LA in the late 60s, sneaking into clubs on the Sunset Strip, sleeping with rock stars, and dreaming of singing at the Whiskey A Go Go. The sex and drugs are thrilling, but it's the rock and roll she loves most. By the time she's 20, her voice is getting noticed, and she has the kind of heedless beauty that makes people do crazy things. Also getting noticed is the Six, a band led by the brooding Billy Dunn. On the eve of their first tour, his girlfriend Camilla finds out she's pregnant, and with the pressure of impending fatherhood and fame, Billy goes a little wild on the road. Daisy and Billy cross paths when a producer realizes that the key to supercharged success is to put the two together. What happens next will become the stuff of legend. The making of that legend is chronicled in this riveting and unforgettable novel, written as an oral history of one of the biggest bands of the 70s. Taylor Jenkins Reid is a talented writer who takes her work to a new level with Daisy Jones and the Six, brilliantly capturing a place and time in an utterly distinctive voice. Praise for Daisy Jones and the Six. Backstage intrigue is the engine of Daisy Jones and the Six. A celebration of American myth-making. Vogue. Each character is compelling, but Daisy Jones is the star. She's a blazing talent who is unapologetic in her sexuality and lives life on her own terms. Like a poignant song with lyrics that speak to your soul, Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid will transport you to another place and time. Associated Press. Reid's wit and gift for telling a perfectly paced story make this one of the most enjoyably readable books of the year. Nylon. Wildly delicious. Entertainment Weekly. Number 3. Three Women by Lisa Taddeo. Number 1 New York Times bestseller. This is the best book of the year. This is it. This is the one. It blew the top of my head off and I haven't been able to stop thinking or talking about it since. Elizabeth Gilbert. Taddeo spent 8 years reporting this groundbreaking book. Breathtaking. Staggeringly intimate. Entertainment Weekly. The most in-depth look at the female sex drive that's been published in decades. New York. A breathtaking and important book. What a fine thing it is to be enthralled by another writer's sentences. To be stunned by her intellect and heart. Cheryl Strayed. Desire as we've never seen it before. A riveting true story about the sex lives of 3 real American women, based on nearly a decade of reporting. Hailed as a dazzling achievement, Los Angeles Times, and riveting page-turner that explores desire, heartbreak, and infatuation in all its messy, complicated nuance, The Washington Post. Lisa Taddeo's 3 Women has captivated readers, booksellers, and critics, and topped bestseller lists worldwide. In suburban Indiana we meet Lena, a homemaker and mother of 2 whose marriage, after a decade, has lost its passion. Starved for affection, Lena battles daily panic attacks and, after reconnecting with an old flame through social media, embarks on an affair that quickly becomes all-consuming. In North Dakota we meet Maggie, a 17-year-old high school student who allegedly has a clandestine physical relationship with her handsome, married English teacher. The ensuing criminal trial will turn their quiet community upside down. Finally, in an exclusive enclave of the Northeast, we meet Sloane, a gorgeous, successful, and refined restaurant owner, who is happily married to a man who likes to watch her have sex with other men and women. Based on years of immersive reporting and told with astonishing frankness and immediacy, 3 Women is both a feat of journalism and a triumph of storytelling, brimming with nuance and empathy. A work of deep observation, long conversations, and a kind of journalistic alchemy. Kate Tuttle, NPR. 3 Women introduces us to 3 unforgettable women, and 1 remarkable writer, whose experiences remind us that we are not alone. Number 4. I Miss You When I Blink, Essays by Mary Laura Philpott. National bestseller. I've spent my adult life prowling bookshelves for the modern-day reincarnation of my favorite authors, Nora Ephron, Irma Bomek, Jean Kerr, and Laurie Cohen, all rolled into one. Good news, I have finally found their successor. Elizabeth Egan, The Washington Post. Acclaimed essayist and bookseller Mary Laura Philpott presents a charmingly relatable and wise memoir and essays about what happened after she checked off all the boxes on her successful life's to-do list and realized she might need to reinvent the list, and herself. Mary Laura Philpott thought she'd cracked the code, always be right, and you'll always be happy. But once she'd completed her life's to-do list, job, spouse, house, babies, check, she found that instead of feeling content and successful, she felt anxious, lost, stuck in a daily grind of overflowing calendars, grueling small talk, and sprawling traffic. She'd done everything right, but she felt all wrong. What's the worse failure, she wondered, smiling and staying the course, or blowing it all up and running away? And are those the only options? In this memoir and essays full of a spot-on observations about home, work, and creative life, Philpott takes on the conflicting pressures of modern adulthood with wit and heart. She offers up her own stories to show that identity crises don't happen just once or only at midlife, reassures us that small, recurring personal reinventions are both normal and necessary, and advises that if you're going to faint, you should get low to the ground first. Most of all, Philpott shows that when you stop feeling satisfied with your life, you don't have to burn it all down and set off on a transcontinental hike, unless you want to. Of course, you can call upon your many selves to figure out who you are, who you're not, and where you belong. Who among us isn't trying to do that? Like a pep talk from a sister, I Miss You When I Blink is the funny, poignant, and deeply affecting book you'll want to share with all your friends, as you learn what Philpott has figured out along the way, that multiple things can be true of us at once, and that sometimes doing things wrong is the way to do life right. Number 5. The Water Cure, a novel by Sophie Mackintosh. A gripping, sinister fable. Margaret Atwood, via Twitter. One of the best books of the year. Good housekeeping, Thrillist. King has tenderly staked out a territory for his wife and 3 daughters, Grace, Leah, and Skye. Here on his island, women are protected from the chaos and violence of men on the mainland. The cult-like rituals and therapies they endure fortify them from the spreading toxicity of a degrading world. But when King disappears and 2 men and a boy wash ashore, the sisters' safe world begins to unravel. Over the span of one blistering hot week, a psychological cat-and-mouse game plays out. Sexual tensions and sibling rivalries flare as the sisters are forced to confront the amorphous threat the strangers represent. A haunting, riveting debut, The Water Cure is a fiercely poetic feminist revenge fantasy that's a startling reflection of our time. Number 6. The Care and Feeding of Ravenously Hungry Girls by Anissa Gray. If you enjoyed An American Marriage by Tayari Jones, read The Care and Feeding of Ravenously Hungry Girls. An absorbing commentary on love, family and forgiveness. The Washington Post. A fast-paced, intriguing story. The novel's real achievement is its uncommon perceptiveness on the origins and variations of addiction. The New York Times Book Review. One of the most anticipated reads of 2019 from Vogue, Vanity Fair, Washington Post, BuzzFeed, Essence, Bustle, Hello Giggles and Cosmo. The Mothers meets An American Marriage, Hello Giggles, in this dazzling debut novel about mothers and daughters, identity and family, and how the relationships that sustain you can also be the ones that consume you. The Butler family has had their share of trials, as sisters Althea, Viola, and Lillian can attest, but nothing prepared them for the literal trial that will upend their lives. Althea, the eldest sister and substitute matriarch, is a force to be reckoned with, and her younger sisters have alternately appreciated and chafed at her strong will. They are as stunned as the rest of the small community when she and her husband, Proctor, are arrested, and in a heartbeat the family goes from one of the most respected in town to utter disgrace. The worst part is, not even her sisters are sure exactly what happened. As Althea awaits her fate, Lillian and Viola must come together in the house they grew up in to care for their sister's teenage daughters. What unfolds is a stunning portrait of the heart and core of an American family in a story that is as page-turning as it is important. Number 7. The Testaments, the sequel to The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. Number 1 New York Times bestseller. Winner of the Booker Prize. The Testaments is a modern masterpiece, a powerful novel that can be read on its own or as a companion to Margaret Atwood's classic, The Handmaid's Tale. More than 15 years after the events of The Handmaid's Tale, the theocratic regime of the Republic of Gilead maintains its grip on power, but there are signs it is beginning to rot from within. At this crucial moment, the lives of 3 radically different women converge, with potentially explosive results. 2 have grown up as part of the first generation to come of age in the new order. The testimonies of these 2 young women are joined by a third, Aunt Lydia. Her complex past and uncertain future unfold in surprising and pivotal ways. With the Testaments, Margaret Atwood opens up the innermost workings of Gilead, as each woman is forced to come to terms with who she is, and how far she will go for what she believes. Number 8. My Lovely Wife by Samantha Downing. Instant number 1 international bestseller. Think Dexter but sexier. The Skim. A dark and irresistible debut. People will shock even the savviest suspense readers. Real simple. Dexter meets Mr. and Mrs. Smith in this wildly compulsive debut thriller about a couple whose 15-year marriage has finally gotten too interesting. Our love story is simple. I met a gorgeous woman. We fell in love. We had kids. We moved to the suburbs. We told each other our biggest dreams and our darkest secrets. And then we got bored. We look like a normal couple. We're your neighbors, the parents of your kid's friend, the acquaintances you keep meaning to get dinner with. We all have our secrets to keeping a marriage alive. Ours just happens to be getting away with murder. Number 9. Rough Magic, Riding the World's Loneliest Horse Race by Lara Pryor Palmer. Think the next Educated or Wild. Palmer's memoir of beating the odds to become a horse champion is an inspiring saga of perseverance, and a classic underdog tale. Entertainment Weekly. If you like your memoirs to revolve around singular experiences, Lara Pryor Palmer's Rough Magic delivers. John Williams, The New York Times. At the age of 19, Lara Pryor Palmer discovered a website devoted to the world's longest, toughest horse race, an annual competition of endurance and skill that involves dozens of riders racing a series of 25 wild ponies across 1,000 kilometers of Mongolian grassland. On a whim, she decided to enter the race. As she boarded a plane to East Asia, she was utterly unprepared for what awaited her. Riders often spend years preparing to compete in the Mongol Derby, a course that recreates the horse messenger system developed by Genghis Khan, and many fail to finish. Pryor Palmer had no formal training. She was driven by her own restlessness, stubbornness, and a lifelong love of horses. She raced for 10 days through extreme heat and terrifying storms, catching a few hours of sleep where she could at the homes of nomadic families. Battling bouts of illness and dehydration, exhaustion and bruising falls, she decided she had nothing to lose. Each dawn she rode out again on a fresh horse, scrambling up mountains, swimming through rivers, crossing woodlands and wetlands, arid dunes and open steppe, as American television crews chased her in their jeeps. Told with terrific suspense and style, in a voice full of poetry and soul, Rough Magic captures the extraordinary story of one young woman who forged ahead, against all odds, to become the first female winner of this breathtaking race. Number 10. Women Talking by Miriam Toews. National bestseller. This amazing, sad, shocking, but touching novel, based on a real-life event, could be right out of The Handmaid's Tale. Margaret Atwood, on Twitter. Scorching. Women Talking is a wry, freewheeling novel of ideas that touches on the nature of evil, questions of free will, collective responsibility, cultural determinism, and, above all, forgiveness. New York Times Book Review, Editor's Choice. While the men of the colony are off in the city, attempting to raise enough money to bail out the rapists and bring them home, these women, all illiterate, without any knowledge of the world outside their community and unable even to speak the language of the country they live in, have very little time to make a choice. Should they stay in the only world they've ever known, or should they dare to escape? Based on real events and told through the minutes of the Women's All-Female Symposium, Toews's masterful novel uses wry, politically engaged humor to relate this tale of women claiming their own power to decide. Miriam Toews is wickedly funny and fearlessly honest. She is an artist of escape. She always finds a way for her characters, trapped by circumstance, to liberate themselves. The New Yorker. A feminist manifesto that delicately unwraps the horror, but also bubbles with the love and wry humor that has endeared Toews to her readers. Toews' celebrated novels are haunted by her upbringing, but she has never written with such heartbreak, or taken such sure aim at fundamentalism and its hypocrisies, as she does in her new book, Women Talking. Did I mention the book is funny? Wickedly so, with Toews's brand of seditious wit, The New York Times. Astonishing. Toews, who has written often about her own Mennonite history, has told a riveting story that is both intensely specific and painfully resonant in the wider world. Women Talking is essential, elemental. USA Today. Lean, bristling. A remarkably layered and gripping story. The book's confined setting and its tight time frame combine to superb dramatic effect. Wall Street Journal. Astonishing. A work of deep moral intelligence, a masterclass in ethics beautifully dressed as a novel. The intelligence on display in Women Talking is as ferocious as it is warm. NPR.org. The award-winning novelist returns with what may be her most experimental work yet, giving voice to 8 women as they grapple with the trauma and power of patriarchy. Entertainment Weekly, 50 Most Anticipated Books of 2019. An astonishment, a volcano of a novel with slowly and furiously mounting pressures of anguish and love and rage. No other book I've read in the past year has spoken so lucidly about our current moment, and yet none has felt as timeless. The always wondrous Miriam Toews has written a book as close to a Greek tragedy as a contemporary Western novelist can come. Lauren Groff, author of Fates and Furies and Florida. Astonishing. Toews interjects a wry humor into these pages, a reflection of her characters and their outlook on life, at once earnest and ironic. You leave a novel about violence and misogyny lifted up by the women in strangely hopeful. Newsday. one of the first great novels of the year. In a narrative so sharp it could draw blood, Women Talking asks an immense, weighty question. How do women who have lived their entire lives in a society that severely limits their agency act when suddenly needing to exercise it? In grappling with this question, Toews, who was raised in a Mennonite town in Canada, has written a heated, heartbreaking story at once fundamental and contemporary. The book's passionate ideology can make it feel like a manifesto being composed in real time, but Women Talking is not a polemic dressed up as fiction. This essential novel is as electrifyingly alive for its masterful storytelling as for its clear, pointed critique of the patriarchy and the insidious nature of power. The Avenue Club. Sharp and devastating. A testament to the power of women's collective voices. BuzzFeed.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.